Elon Musk's Neuralink is straight out of Black Mirror, with the goal of allowing you to send a text with just your thoughts.
Elon Musk announcing that for the first time, his company Neuralink has implanted a brain chip in a human.
The idea of controlling things with your mind, how long has that fascinated you? Well, you'd be glad to know our wildest dreams are about to become a reality. This superpower is finally in our hands, and it is all because of Elon Musk.
He's a 9-year-old macaque who had a Neuralink placed in each side of his brain about 6 weeks ago.
If you are curious, sit back and stay tuned till the end of the video. You will be leaving with a sense of admiration for the billionaire. Let's get started. The new fancy Neuralink. Okay, before we begin, let's get one thing out of the way. Elon Musk is not the inventor of the technology. But then what's all the buzz about? Oh, the hype is very much real. You'll see. Let's go back to the start. Back in 2011, two neuroscientists created a startup. Mohseni, a professor at Case Western Reserve University, and his scientific partner, Randolph Nudo of Kansas University Medical Center, owned this company, Neuralink. The duo had spent long hours creating a device that could have helped people with brain disorders. Their prototype back then had already helped rats with brain disorders, but they couldn't go too far with the idea because investors refused to pitch in. Plus, they couldn't prove that their device was reliable enough to be put into humans. They were pretty much at a dead end. Elon Musk then entered the story. He offered tens of thousands of dollars, and the duo had no choice but to sell the name of their company. Nobody knew why he was so desperate to get the name Neuralink.
To see Neuralink coming from a very long distance, because any device that you implant in a human you have to go through so many tests.
But it is safe to say it has created enough chatter around the world today. Musk was careful with this venture. He didn't make any wild claims like he did with every other of his businesses. The guy kept it a big secret until the time came to announce the big news. Once he had the cool name in the bag, the man went ahead to recruit a team of neuroscientists and bioengineers. The idea was to create futuristic devices that could help people with brain disorders. It was as vague as that. Then came the big news. The team was trying to design a brain chip that could be put inside the human body. This magical chip could help people control computers and other medical devices just by thinking. The world was left astonished. Musk claimed that it would help blind people get the ability to see.
The second application would be restoration of eyesight. So if somebody's gone completely blind, maybe even has lost the optic nerve.
And paralyzed people would finally be able to walk, all with this magical chip. It all sounded pretty cool back then, but also almost impossible. There was a whole list of companies that were working on the same idea, but they had no luck. So the people weren't quite convinced yet, but they were mistaken because none of them was Elon Musk. The experiments on the animals. But even the massive billionaire had to follow the rules. He couldn't just go ahead and put the brain chip in the human brain. He had to prove that it works, and that's where animals came to the rescue. There was a lot of silence during these couple of years. Elon Musk and his team of researchers refused to comment on what they were working on. But soon enough, horrifying leaks started hitting the internet. Musk and his team had no choice but to come out into the open. The allegations were pretty serious. They claimed that Musk had killed over 1,500 animals since 2018. The opposition was not happy with the silence around the experiments. They feared that it was just another case in the long line of animal cruelty. Experiments kicked off 1 year into the company's creation. The first subjects were monkeys, and the allegations were insane. There was one report that a monkey had such terrible nausea that the animal vomited constantly and had open sores in the esophagus. The animal had to be put to rest. There were also reports about monkeys going berserk, pulling apart their hair, and showing signs of self-mutilation. This is a common thing seen in rhesus monkeys when the lab conditions are poor. But isn't that a common thing in animal trials? The thing is to report that the company claims they did. What was the internet enraged about? Well, here is the thing. The allegations also claimed that Musk was taking a very fast approach to his experiments. They stated that Musk told his team to work as if there was a bomb attached to their heads. In the documents, it was revealed that there were around 4 experiments that went the wrong path because of employee mistakes. These experiments were conducted on 86 pigs and 2 monkeys. The opposition claimed that the reason for these botched experiments was because of the blazing speed at which the company was working. There could have been fewer deaths had the experiments been done at a steady speed. The failed tests, done in a hurry, forced the company to use more and more subjects. You can call these allegations a hoax, but they were coming straight from the former employees of the company. A few of them fought with the management, stating that they should slow down a bit and use the conventional approach. This would have involved doing experiments on a single animal, drawing results, and then moving on to the other subject. But Musk demanded speed, and it was a clear objective around the lab. Could they have taken fewer subjects? I guess we won't know. But Elon Musk obviously wanted to win the race and get the sweet taste of success in his mouth. So he carried on, and people who didn't agree left the company. In the end, 1,500 animals were used as subjects. Out of this massive number, the company had tested and killed around 280 subjects. These animals included pigs, sheep, monkeys, rats, and mice. The internet was outraged, but the committee saw no signs of wrongdoing in the animal experiments. You can blame it on the laws, but the company did nothing wrong. There are thousands of other companies doing the same thing. You can't pick Elon Musk or his team out of the mix just because they are big names. So the case ended there, and Musk won fair and square. But here is the interesting part. They might have hit a snag in their journey, but the end result was a big motivation for the company. The device was working on animals. The company released a video of a monkey playing a simple video game on the computer. The footage was 3 minutes long, and the monkey showed no tiredness or irritation from the chips on his head. It gave people hope and changed a lot of perspectives. A lot of them even started admiring the technology, and it was time for the big game, to test it on humans. The experiment on the human. The company got the approval to shift to human clinical trials in year 2023. A few months into the big news, the team started looking for people with quadriplegia. This disorder leaves the patient with the paralysis of all 4 limbs and torso. A person cannot move or control any muscle voluntarily from the neck down. The idea was to put all the patients in the trial through a minimally invasive surgery. The chip would be planted in the part of the brain that controlled the intent to move. The surgery would be done by the robot. After the procedure, the chip will fetch the brain signals of the patient and send them to an application. But how will they catch the signal if the neurons are damaged? People with quadriplegia have a deformed spine that disrupts the pathway of the signal from the brain to the limbs. So, somewhere in the brain, the neurons are creating the signal, but they cannot pass through. That's how the device tracks and collects the signal. The app then decodes the signal and grants the ability to the patient to move the muscles. But the initial goal wasn't that big. All the company wanted to see was if the patient could move a cursor on the screen using just their thoughts. Soon enough, Musk announced on X that the first human had successfully gotten the implant and is recovering well. The news created shockwaves around the world. It was revolutionary, to say the least. This is when Elon Musk started talking about his new device called telepathy. He told the public to imagine if Stephen Hawking could communicate faster than a speed typist or an auctioneer. That is the goal. So, who was this guy who made these headlines and got the implant? What is the implant like? 29-year-old Nolang Arbok was paralyzed from the neck down after a diving incident. He wouldn't have been alive today had it not been for the Australians who saved his life. But there was so much more coming to his story, and he had no clue. Arbor joined Neuralink's clinical trials in the year 2023, but the experiment wasn't a success on the first try. The implant was successfully placed inside his brain, but the chip started losing its functionality in less than a month. The team was baffled, but they didn't lose hope. A few of the device's threads that connected the brain to the computer had started to pull apart. It meant that the device was working, but its effectiveness was compromised. Arbor stated that he cried after hearing this bad news. He feared that he would lose all the good things that he had just started doing. But it wasn't that big of a speed bump. The surgery was still a huge success because Arbor could play a game of chess even with the loose wires. The only thing needed was a bit of a touch-up. So, the team took it out and gave it to engineers who upgraded the device. It was later revealed that there was an air pocket trapped inside the patient's skull that may have altered the wire's placement. After the upgrade, the chip was put into the brain again, and it changed the life of the patient. That isn't a wild claim. Arbor said so himself. He stated that there were a few hiccups along the way, but ended the note by praising the implant. The patient said that he could not feel the chip in his brain at all. He even stated that if he lost his memory, he would have no clue that the chip was inside his brain. Even with his positive statements, the device's success spoke louder. He was practically dominating in all of the video games he played after getting the implant. That's not all. Arbor could move a cursor on the screen. He doesn't even have to look. All he has to do is think about it. But here is the big milestone that Arbor was quite happy about. He can send texts within a few seconds. What's so crazy about that? Well, he claimed that other assistive devices were pretty slow. It would take 5 to 15 minutes to send a single text using those devices. With the chip, it does not take more than a minute. It is as close to a functioning human body as it can be. But how does it happen? He thinks it, of course. Yes, the man thinks of a text message to write, and the implant does the rest for him. Still confused? Well, let's take a trip into the human body. The science behind it. How does it work? On the outside, the idea seems pretty fancy. You are basically controlling things with your mind. But there was a roadblock of complexity that the doctors had to cross. So, what really goes on inside the brain? The device itself is not bigger than a small coin, around 8 millimeters in diameter. It has electrodes that are thinner than a single strand of human hair. The human brain is pretty complicated, but also quite extraordinary. That's why it has taken so long for humans to perfect this technology. The brain has billions of tiny cells called neurons that work like a switch. They are responsible for every single thing you do in a day. They send a signal to different parts of the body that creates a desired action. From taking your daily steps, eating your food, and doing your workout to the tiniest of things, like blinking once or a single thought that crosses your mind. Each and everything is controlled by these tiny switches. What's astonishing is that each neuron has its own meaning. But here is the problem. There are some people who have different kinds of brain disorders. A part of their brain is affected, and the neurons in that area turn themselves off. The signal is then disrupted due to the damaged neurons. So, if the visual area of your brain is affected, you will have trouble seeing. Similarly, any other body parts associated with the damaged neurons will not function properly. That's how this brain chip comes into the story. It is inserted into the brain surgically to try and take control of the damaged neuron's signal. A small piece of the skull is removed and the brain chip is made to sit inside the brain. The piece is then stitched back, but it isn't any normal surgery. The implant needs to be placed with such precision that a human surgeon couldn't possibly do the surgery. But that's not a problem for the big man Elon Musk. He simply created a robot specifically to do this surgery. Even with the need for extreme precision, the surgery takes less than an hour. At the end of the procedure, you will be left with a couple of stitches. But here's the catch. You can control the external device set up for you just by thinking. The chip is rechargeable and will run for a whole day. You can charge it at night simply by wearing a nightcap. The analog data from the device are turned into digital signals that external devices and computers can easily decode. There are many algorithms that can help the computer connect the defective areas of the brain with the external device. It is no easy feat, but Neuralink managed to pull it off in the most elegant way. But what is so different about this magical chip? Aren't there other devices that can help paralyzed people move or deaf people hear? What sets it apart is a number of things. The threads are much thinner and more flexible. They can easily penetrate the brain without creating a clot in the nearby blood vessels. But the biggest milestone is the number of electrodes fitted in the chip. This tiny chip has 1,000 electrodes that can stimulate a large network of neurons, far more than any other device. Here is the context you need. Back in 2004, a small device known as the Utah Array was inserted for the very first time in a human brain. It helped a paralyzed person control a cursor on the computer screen using simply his thoughts. It was incredible back then. In the following years, technology started advancing. What was a simple action of moving a cursor shifted to much more advanced moves. People were controlling robotic arms, twitching their muscles, and even playing video games with much better accuracy. This device was the best device in use for BCI, but it only had 100 electrodes. On the other hand, the Link has a little over 1,000 electrodes. So you can see how a giant gap was met by Elon Musk. Neuralink pushed this entire technology one more step in the ladder by making it much more practical, unlike anything we have seen before. The pressure of the failed companies was immense, but the team managed to tick off every little milestone. But their work isn't quite done yet. What's happening? Right now, the company has no plans to stop. It was announced a few months back that it is already working on giving the second patient his implant. Soon after this big news, the team got to work, and the second patient was given the brain chip. The surgery was a huge success, and Alex was recovering well. All was going well, and the news broke on the internet. But the work wasn't done yet. The time came to test the results of the chip, and the patient ticked off all the boxes. With the Link in his head, he has been working on his ability to move the cursor, and he did it faster than the first patient. But that's not even the shocking part. The patient is also learning how to use CAD software to design 3D objects. That's a pretty big shift from playing video games, right? It does make me think back to how Musk is pretty adamant about checking off his goals faster. But it was Alex's wish to hop onto the CAD software, giving his background as an automotive technician. But this was pretty revolutionary. The magical chip was making a paralyzed guy completely independent, offering him the sweet chance to even get a job in the future. But there's more. The results didn't stop here. Alex managed to design a small mount for his Neuralink charger. The custom mount was 3D printed and was fixed into his setup. I am just as fascinated as you are. The public is equally gleeful about the way the company is practically sprinting in the race to success. The company's plans right now are clear. They do not just want to hop on to the next patient, but they are also working on improving the productivity of the patients. They want to provide full mouse and video game controller functionality to the user. They are also working on enhancing their algorithm to detect the signal for handwriting intent for a quicker entry to a text. This would not just be helpful for the quadriplegic, but also for patients who cannot speak. But wait, is it okay to mess with a human brain like this? We still haven't discussed something pretty important. Is all of this ethical? While the world was busy admiring the brain chip, people couldn't help but wonder if all of this was okay. The biggest protest stems from medical concerns. People with brain implants could get an unwanted infection, leading to the possibility of permanent brain damage. But all the patients are made aware of all the side effects and risks before the clinical trial. Arbour himself claimed that he was given a laundry list of problems that could have gone wrong and could still go sideways. Plus, the side effects are there with every surgery and clinical trial. Granted, some procedures pose a higher risk, but it is all made clear at the start. So, then what's the problem? Well, the people are thinking about the future, and let's be honest, their fears are valid and they don't paint a pretty picture. People are actually worried about handing control of the brain to artificial intelligence. And let's not forget that the chip is an electronic device that can be hacked by unwanted third parties. Your thoughts could be controlled by other people, opening the chance for both manipulation and brainwashing. That's not all. There are chances that third parties could render your body parts useless by hacking into your brain. Could it be used as a weapon? Could the governments use it to control the narrative in the region? Will humans then simply turn into robots? There are a lot of questions, and nobody can answer them now. But if this is truly the case, there would be no room for privacy. Can you imagine an expert accessing your brain and going through your memories? There might even be some embarrassing thoughts there. You will either be left paranoid or scared about making every single move. Even Elon Musk fears AI and believes that it has the potential to take charge of humans. This is why he built this device, to take a step towards a symbiotic relationship between humans and machines. And let's not forget, these fears, although valid, do not change the fact that the Neuralink is merely at the start of building something big. It is all just talk right now. It is the same as giving your data to social media platforms. Everybody is using the platforms despite knowing the dangers of it. So, does the future really hold a place for all these claims against the device? It is unclear right now, but here is the thing. The regulations to tackle these claims would also be put into place. What do you think? Is there a chance for these brain chips to go horribly wrong? Or is it not a big enough problem and the public is worried about nothing? Let us know in the comments below. How can the Neuralink change the future? There is so much the Neuralink can do for the people who are disabled. It can help paralyzed people move their limbs again. They will be able to move without any assistive devices and regain their control over their limbs. People who are unable to speak will be able to tell their thoughts out loud. They will be able to write using a virtual keyboard and even send messages simply by thinking about it in their brain. They will be able to surf the web and even create digital art, opening up their chances to live a decent life. But that's not all. There are other benefits too, ones that can help monitor other diseases. Using the BCIs, doctors will be able to detect changes in the brain activity of their patients. It will help in the early diagnosis of complex diseases that have kept the world troubled today, from epilepsy, bipolar disorders, and obsessive-compulsive disorders to Alzheimer's, and even Parkinson's. There is a whole area that can be studied. If this works in the right way, doctors would even be able to treat mental disorders. People suffering from anxiety, depression, insomnia, and many other diseases will have hope to overcome their troubled phases. Targeted electrical stimulation to the defective areas could be used as a way to treat all of this and more. Even basic things like fatigue, memory, and attention span could be managed by doctors. Sounds pretty amazing, right? Well, that's the future we are looking at if Musk keeps ticking the checkboxes. What's next for Neuralink? Let's take a peek at what the company is planning to do with the brain chip in the future. What are its goals, and what are the many interesting things we will see from the company? After the success of the brain chips, Elon Musk is back to making bold claims. He stated recently that there will be no phones in the future and only Neuralink users dominating the planet. This statement was made in response to a user asking if phones could be controlled by thoughts through the brain chip. Yeah, Musk didn't hold back with his reply. Musk also claimed that they are now working on a second device called BlindSight that will help blind people see. It will need half the electrodes than telepathy, making it much easier to design and more effective in the brain. So, there are a lot of exciting things that Musk has promised. Even with his wild claims, he has managed to give us a tangible result that we cannot help but be in awe of. What are you most fascinated about? Are you scared of this technology gaining popularity? Let us know in the comments. If you like this video, smash the like button and hit subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks for watching and goodbye.